Alrighty, going into our next batch of shots here. Katoom! Lisa, welcome to week 6, Lisa. Welcome to week 6 coffee. So Lisa, and you sent me some notes. You said that minimal editing on these, the yellow bird, which I'll get to in a second, is cropped a bit. Interesting challenges. I had never tried to do this. I did pretty well on most shots as I've been shooting mostly manual for the last year, but they were all underexposed to some extent. And so let's take a look and see how close you are getting with your shots here. Good God, what, that's, okay, it says f11. I thought it said f1.0, and I was like, what lens were you using? Okay. And so I can see 60D, 1855 mil, 18 millimeter focal length, 1/500, f11. Okay, so for this one here, yes, you were shooting under. This one is under for your first shot here. So if you were going off of your light meter would be really confused, and it would say it would freak out from the daylight, the sun, and all the snow. Everything in this image, all that has, all the snow would make it freak out and say that you're overexposed, and so make you stop down and make less light come into the camera. But know that if you're ever out in daylight settings, in exterior daylight, and especially in the winter with snow or any bright material or bright surfaces, that sort of stuff, or light colored surfaces, I should say. Your light meter will get tripped up by all of that. It will interpret this as too much light and ask that you stop down. So take that into account when if you are going off your light meter, because yeah, this did come out a little bit, quite a bit under. And we're looking not at the, it's exposed more for the snow, it's even under for the snow actually. But it's if you're exposing for the snow, then it'd be closer to that. But we're looking more at this tree here. So much of this tree is dark here. So what I was saying before in Pete's review of like how I look for proper exposure and how I'm looking at it is find what should be the darkest part of the image. So it would be a spot on this, or actually in the background, these shadowed parts would be one of the darkest parts of the image. So back over here, the further into the woods, that's where less light goes. So now those, that is what should be the dark part of the image, but you have much of your subject is dark, much of the bridge down here, there's a lot of spots on here that are pure black. So that's definitely under. And you can notice that there are hardly any pure white points. The snow really should be pure white. Depending on the time of day, it looks like this was either a sunrise, sunset. So you might have been, the sky, you would have still not had pure white if you were properly exposed. So more the snow would. But it looks like a landscape shot. You picked f11, that's fine. You got a lot of wiggle room with the shutter, so close that or speed that shutter up. Slow that shutter down so you can let more light into the camera, get your exposure back. But otherwise, that you've got a problem. That you've got an issue with underexposing. So that's no problem. That's okay. Just remember to take that into account as you're framing up your next shot. So let's take a look at some more ones. Okay, at first glance, this one is under as well. Trees in puddle. Cool. Okay, so if we're looking specifically at the reflection of the trees here, see, that's a tricky one, because I would say if you were to bring more light into this scene through your settings, if you were to, let's say, open up your f-stop, then the reflection of the puddles would become less of the subject, because all of this would brighten up. You wouldn't see the reflection as much. You would see all the detail of the grass and the rocks and everything underneath. So you would lose the reflections a bit. I think is what would happen. So that's a tricky one. If the reflection is indeed your subject. But yeah, it is on the underside. So I would say, yeah, you'd have to open your shutters, or your ISO is set pretty high. So yeah, you'd have to open up your f-stop and try to bring more light into your camera that way. And as for subject, it's a tricky subject. Trying to, in shallow water, shoot reflections. Typically, if you want to shoot a reflection, then you've got to shoot it. In order to get it nice and clear, you have to shoot reflections in dark water, deep water. Deep water, you can't see the bottom, so there's no details there, so you can see more. The water becomes more of a reflective surface. So there is that. Moving on. Okay, this is the yellow bird that you were talking about. Did you say you did crop it? The yellow bird is cropped a little bit. Okay, so try not to crop too much in the future. I'd rather see. I'd rather try to see what you guys are getting. Like that's what's going into the camera. On occasion I will crop. I won't crop for this challenge though, just because this is for learning purposes. So I'm challenging myself. So if I don't get things framed up the first time, I need to remember. I don't need to rely on cropping it in post. But that's purely my thing. If you insist on, if you would like to leave that option open for you to crop later, that's totally fine. I love that you tell me, that you let me know. So, okay, here, what you're shooting at, you got 250, 55 to 250. Okay, so F10 and 1/250. Okay, so again, it is a little bit on the low side. This one you could definitely afford to let in more light, stop up, 2 or 3 stops probably, and to let in more detail, because otherwise this is becoming the whole picture is there's no detail in the snow here, so it's just going to remain like that, completely blown out, not blown out, but no detail. So the only thing that you're losing when you stop your or when you lower your when you get a lower exposure, when you get underexposed, you're just losing detail in the subject here. It's starting to come in a little bit flat. There's not much else going on with the image. So yeah, boost that back up. And again, this is another shot that, again, your light meter would have gotten tripped up on, so it probably misled you. Probably said, you need to stop down. It's very, very bright. When actually, no, your scene may be very bright. Your subject is not. And so that's the problem with relying on the light meter. So you do have to take more confidence in yourself. So when you look at a scene, then look at the subject and know that, okay, light meter, you're telling me that the scene is overexposed, but I know that you're looking at the overall image. I know that my subject needs more light. So be confident in when you're choosing your settings, that you know how to expose for your subject. All right, this one, give me 2 seconds to talk about this, because first of all, is the exposure set wrong here? Okay, you're going to get this won't be a simple answer of yes or no, because if we're looking at our subject, on the one hand, is it properly exposed for the subject? No. Does it have proper exposure on the subject in this bird on the bird feeder here? No, it doesn't. However, does the exposure that you've chosen here lend itself to the composition that you've chosen, because it's framed up against a bright sky? Yes. So that works. So I'm actually going to choose an answer for this one, because it looks to me actually like you got your settings right for this shot. There's a little bit of detail. It's not a full-blown silhouette. They're not the bird and the bird feeder are not pitch black, so you haven't lost all the detail. There's a little bit of detail in that, and the bird is completely framed up against the sky, and the bright sky. So you've got the silhouette going. So that is a good shot, and that I would say, yeah, you chose your settings right for that. If you let in way more light and you exposed off of not the entire, you didn't want your subject to be dark, left silhouetted, then if you let more light in, then you would blow out the sky, and you'd probably lose a lot of the detail of the branches in the back between the bird and the sky. So it would result in a different image. So was that the effect? You'll have to answer this one, Lisa. Was that the effect that you were going for? Did you intend to shoot that to get the bird silhouetted like that? That's the only way that you can answer if this one's properly exposed or not. Only you can answer that. But awesome. Thank you, Lisa, very much for participating in week 6, guessing your manual settings. Yeah, you've got, just remember to bring a little bit more light into the camera. Try adjusting that for your first shots next time. But thank you for submitting, and we'll see you next week.